Hey, welcome everybody. Happy Friday. It is Friday. It is 4 p.m. Pacific time. That means it is time for Pathfinder Friday. Today, folks, we've got a great show. I'm excited about this one. We've been doing lore on the Starfinder Wednesday shows, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm having a great time. Pathfinder Friday, we've been talking about the playtest, and then if we have time, we talk about the playtest some more. Today, we're doing some lore for Pathfinder, and to do that, we've got the best person in the house for that job. It is James Jacobs, Creative Director for Pathfinder. James, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
It is Dan the Man. Thank you. Aramil, thank you for subscribing too. I really appreciate that. So today, we're going to start with some lore of Pathfinder.
Yep.
I'm super excited about this, and I was like, James, what do we do? Like, what should we talk about? And it was basically, let's start with just a Golarion thing. Let's ease in, kind of throw our toes in the pool of lore that is Pathfinder and Golarion.
Yep.
So we're going to expect a lot of talking and a lot of lore and story and history, maybe probably some geography. So break out your notebooks, get your pencils ready. It's going to be awesome. And besides that, it's mostly what I'm hoping we'll see. What I'm hoping is that we can start to make this a regular thing and start talking about more of this Pathfinder lore, because, you know, I have a theory, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I always think that a lot of people know a lot about the history and the lore of Pathfinder. You know a lot about it, just about everything there is to know, I would imagine.
Well, if I don't know, I can make it up.
There you go. See? All right. And not that we'll do that a lot on this show.
No, this is all legit.
But I also think that there are a lot of people that are fans, that are players of Pathfinder, that kind of missed some information here and there. And I thought this might be a really fun way just to kind of make sure everybody's kind of level set, and let's talk about that. So first off, James, thank you for being here.
No more.
And then second off, thank you for being here. We're here every Friday. So we'll hope to see you again every Friday for these, that I'm hoping is going to be the beginning of a long, nice series of lore. Yeah. So where do you want to get started with Golarion?
So yeah, Golarion is basically the world of Pathfinder. It's where all of our adventures for Pathfinder take place, with a few exceptions when we go off the planet and to other dimensions and other parallel worlds or whatever. But for the most part, it's there on Golarion. And to be more precise, it's an area we call the Inner Sea region. There's all sorts of continents on the map of Golarion. And, there's there's a frozen crown of the world to the north, which is sort of like the North Pole. There's like a mysterious continent called Sarasan way down in the south, which is sort of like all shrouded in dreams and mysterious. Who knows what's going on there. But the Inner Sea region is really where we focus most of our stories and the exploration of the setting.
Okay.
And this map of the Inner Sea is something that it got a lot of stuff on there, but it's not as big as you might think. All of the nations and regions in here are they're all dispersed and they have different themes and all of that. One of the things we really wanted to do with Golarion, and with the Inner Sea region in particular, is we wanted it to be a gaming world, not necessarily something like a for novels or for movies or stories like that. So we wanted this to be a shared setting. Yeah. Because one of the weird things about building something for an RPG is that you don't have the main characters. Those are the player characters. We just have the history of the world, the villains that you're going to be fighting against, the allies you're going to be teaming up with.
Right.
So we really wanted to build a setting where every kind of region, there's about 45 regions in just the Inner Sea portion of the world. We wanted them all to have their own theme. So we've got areas that are like Taldor and Andron, which is really the super classic fantasy tropes, like knights and elves and dwarves and stuff like that. We've got places
when they ride into town, there's maybe a jousting tournament going on, that kind of thing.
We've got places like the Shackles, which is all about like nautical stuff with piracy and sea monsters and stuff like that. We've got Ustalov, which is all about like gothic horror and like kind of the horror elements of dark fantasy and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's really kind of all over the place, and some of them are really just crazy. Like there's Numeria, which is whereas like a super science and fantasy clash together. There's Geb, which is all about undead, being the main citizenry of the setting. So it really is a diverse place that we wanted to build up for all sorts of different stories, rather than have a bunch of different campaign settings where we could have like, this is the one where it's all desert themed. This is the campaign setting where it's like urban stuff. We wanted the Inner Sea region to encompass all of the different styles of play that we enjoy playing, and by expansion, that everybody else enjoys playing.
Yeah, and is that mostly the bulk of what we're seeing on that map right there?
Yeah. This is the Inner Sea region. It's basically the center of it there. There's like that sort of crater lake area in the middle right area. That's kind of the Alacortos and Absalom. That's kind of ground zero, the city, the so-called city at the center of the world.
Right.
And that's where the Pathfinder Society itself is founded and based. Pathfinder Society is a group of like adventurers who go out and seek answers to mysteries and do all sorts of not necessarily good guy stuff or bad guy stuff. They kind of ride the line down the middle to try to be impartial, but so there's all sorts of stuff going on there. Yeah, it's really a lot of stuff going on. I mean, just looking at the map, you can see there's jungles, there's deserts, there's mountains, there's oceans, all sorts of stuff.
Right.
But we really, like I was saying, try to get a bunch of different themes and stuff in there so that you can get different sorts of stories going on. The main way we set up and produce these stories is through the Adventure Path line, which is every 6 months it's a new campaign that goes from first level up to like 15th, 17th, or even in some cases all the way to 20th level.
Right.
And each of these adventure paths tends to focus in one specific area of the Inner Sea region. Sometimes they go beyond the borders of the map, but that is the primary way by which we explore the setting, is through these long-running adventures. We also produce additional like books that expand upon, like in the campaign setting line, we'll expand upon regions and factions, religions of the world, and then the player companion line will look at things more through the eyes of what sort of things your characters can learn, like what kind of martial arts can you learn from this region, or what sort of weird spells can you learn from Irisin, where it's always winter and stuff like that.
And then I would imagine that you get things like the shops you can buy. You can buy this item and it's only in this region, or because of natural resources or whatever.
Yep.
So then because of that, each AP kind of takes on its own mood and feel. I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's really, I mean, it's a lot of stuff to take in. We've been doing stuff with the Inner Sea region for what, over 10 years now or something like that. So it can be kind of intimidating for somebody just coming new to the settings. Like, there's so much stuff. But one thing that we really try to do with this adventure path is every time we start a new adventure path, we start from ground zero. You don't have to know everything about the entire planet. You just have to know whether or not you come from this small town where maybe your parents were like a blacksmith and a shopkeeper, and you don't have to really know everything about it. We try to make it easy to get into, but expansive for like all sorts of different things going on.
Right. It's like a TARDIS. It's bigger on the inside.
Yes.
Once you get there, it's like so much to play around with, and so it's crazy. And then that's where things like the campaign settings come along. Yeah. And you've got like the Gazetteer, which I'd imagine that the Gazetteer becomes important because it's like, well, if we're in a region that we haven't talked about a lot, would you like to know more? And then you get to click the button. So when you are thinking about the different various areas of Golarion and the regions and things like that, what are the types of places that you think about first, that you're like, these are places that are super exciting? These are we already know, and first of all, because we've already done a show on Sandpoint.
Right.
We've got, and if you want, we've got it on demand, so you can find that in our video on demand or on YouTube. The show about Taldor, or about Sandpoint, where you kind of go through and talk about different things. And again, just for people that might have missed that, that connection to Sandpoint would be, it's kind of where you grew up.
It's one of when we first started working on Pathfinder and setting up the world. One of the first things I started working on was the Rise of the Runelords Adventure Path, and we had to come up with a lot of proper nouns like very, very quickly. And so one of the kind of shortcuts I did, you always see this, like when you talk, like, how do you learn to write? What do you do when you write? You write what you know, because you can come from it as from a position of, not, if not expertise, then at least you're informed about what you're talking about. So I grew up in a really small town on the Northern California coast. And so I drew a lot of, like, from that town's history and its people and its terrain and its it's easier to come up with like what are these goblins and these like these weird split-faced sin spawn doing
Right.
climbing up out of the wells when you don't have to worry about what are the weather patterns or whether or not it's foggy or windy or rainy. You know, you
Yeah.
can just think back to your childhood and say it's always foggy in the morning. Maybe that inspires a plot or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely.
and so then going from there, it just kind of expanded out there. We have so many people working at Paizo. Each one of them brings their own history, their own personal experiences to the setting. And it really helps build the entire thing into a vibrant world.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is crazy to me how when you start talking to some of the folks around here, when it's like, oh yeah, that's a lot like blah 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 when
Yeah.
I grew up, and I love that because it makes it so.
It's just it feels lived in. is
Yeah,
what
you
it
know
is,
that that's exactly it. That is exactly it. It feels lived in. It's got that vibrant
Yeah.
feel to it. So, so let's talk about some across the lands of Galaria. We've got different houses, factions, kingdoms, all
Yep.
of those different types of things. How does the basic land structure break down? Like like we would have a country and then states and then cities and counties and
It's
stuff.
kind of all over the place.
Okay.
For the most part, we treat the different regions within the around the inner sea. We treat them as specific regions, and they could be a kingdom, they could be a wilderness reach, they could be a collection of city-states. It kind of varies from group to group to group. So you'll see, like up in the very upper left corner, we've got the lands of the Linnorm Kings.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a place that kind of draws a lot on like Viking history and like raiders, like sea raiding and trolls and like kind of Nordic, real world Norwegian mythology and stuff like that.
Right.
And this area is an entire nation, but it's separated into different kingdoms, each of which is ruled by a powerful character who, in order to rule this land, they have to go out and single-handedly defeat this giant dragon called a Linnorm.
Right. Right.
And some of them go through it honorably and defeat it in fair combat. One of them went out and maybe found a dead dragon on the ground and came back with us and said, "Oh, I totally killed this thing. I get to be king now." So in that specific region, it's divided into several different kingdoms who are all semi-aligned. Some of them bicker and fight and war with each other. Some of them are allied with each other. But then right next door to that, we've got an area called Irison, which is one big open area that's just, it's eternal winter. It's basically, there's no summer, spring, or fall. It's ruled by these winter witches, and there's like these wolves that can assume human form, and it's very,
Right.
very steeped in like fairy tale, like spooky dark fairy tale stuff. Russian mythology. Baba Yaga plays a big role in the history
right.
of the region, and that's just one huge kingdom, basically, or empire. Then one step over from that, you got the realm of the Mammoth Lords, which is this big wilderness area with this huge mountain range going right down the middle.
Right.
And there's not really any centralized government at all there. It's just these tribes of barbarians fighting against giants and these megafauna just stomping along the lands and all of that. So it's really kind of all over the place. Each one of them is a different sort of own theme. I mean, even further east from the Mammoth Lords, you've got the Worldwound, which is kind of a post-apocalyptic
yeah.
landscape ruled by demons. So it's all over the place. It really varies from location to location.
So then we've got some questions going in the chat. We'll get to questions after this first part of the show.
Yeah.
I promise you. But we've got someone saying, I want to know how the setting will change for second edition. We've already talked about this.
Yeah.
We've got a plan in place for that. So we will get to that
Yeah.
at some point. Promise.
One thing I want to say real quick
Please.
is while there will be some changes to like specific regions and all of that, particularly informed by like what we've done in our prior adventure paths.
Right.
For the most part, we don't want it to be a brand new setting. We've put too much time and effort. We really love Golarion and the Inner Sea region. We have a lot of stories still that we want to tell about it. And I'm working on Adventure Path right now for the next edition of the game, the very first one that I can't really say much more about, but it's touches on storylines that I've been interested in for almost from the start. And I know
Nice.
people are going to be just pretty excited when we finally reveal what the plot of this one is coming up is going to be about.
Oh, it's so good.
But yeah, it's really, my goal is basically as different as the rules may end up being, I want it to be more or less invisible. If you live inside Golarion, the switch from editions should not be something you notice. On the day before, you may have a wizard friend who shoots fireballs and is allergic to goblin pox or whatever like that.
Right.
Day after, it's the same thing.
Okay, so yeah, so we're getting that. That'll be coming along. Someone's asking about the Worldwound now. We'll get to that because I think that there are some of these things that are going to come up. And trying to emphasize, and I know that it was really difficult when we were going over our notes.
Yeah.
Where it's like we got to keep this broad right now just to start and everything. So a lot of the things that are coming up in the chat, we have already talked about doing a show about it. So we'll try to answer what we can without actually spoiling our own shows. I guess is the way to look at it.
I mean, we also we were talking about like maybe looking at like what people are really interested in. And again, you said this is going to be every Friday. We're going to have a different topic every Friday.
Yeah.
We might be talking about the current adventure path. We might be talking about an upcoming campaign setting book. It might be that in a couple of shows, like everybody's like, "Oh, tell us all about Galt's sewage system." So we might do an entire show about the sewer systems of Galt.
That's the one that I was going to write down on my list. Was
really?
The sewage system of Galt.
They don't work very well.
I can't wait.
Yeah. It's like when you flush the toilet. It's like these noises.
And you might have noticed in my fervor to get the studio set up today, a little bit of water landed on the.
It's decor.
It is. It's actually just a shadow. I didn't spill all of the water out of my glass.
It certainly wasn't me. I didn't do it.
No, it wasn't James. He didn't kick the table. Nope. I didn't bump the table over. It's all fine. But the point of the story is I'm going to be dehydrated by the time we're done because I have no water.
Nice.
Now. So, but anyway, okay, so. That kind of runs us around. I'm taking another look at the map here because I really do like the map actually. And then let's move down to the south west. I assume north is up. On this
north is up.
Okay, so like
we try to do that usually. It doesn't always work out that way.
Yeah,
but.
Well, if we had one of those compass stones that the really nice one from Devon. The Wayfinder that campaign coins makes from Devon. Beautiful. What are we looking at in the southwest corner?
So that's one of the things that Eric Mona wanted to do right at the start.
Okay.
One of his theories is that fantasy maps that are just like collections of mountains and rivers and trees and all of that stuff, those are a dime a dozen. He wanted something on our map that was unique and immediately caught your eye. And so what you got down there in the lower left corner is you got a hurricane. That's the Eye of Abendego.
Okay.
It's a perpetual forever storm that's just churning away forever and forever and forever. It started up about 100 years ago, and it's been going ever since. That's one of the big defining elements of Golarion, actually, is that about 100, 110, about a century ago,
right.
There was this prophecy that the god of humanity, Eridan, was going to come back and usher everything into this new golden age of wonder and beauty, and everything was going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And the day came for him to show up and bring us all of these treasures and all that, and he died. And when he died, storms just racked the entire place. Up in the north, the Worldwound opened, and all these demons poured out. And down in the south, the Eye of Abendego started up and just was churning along forever. Basically, disasters just racked the entire planet.
Right.
And one of the big disasters at that point, of course, is that the prophecy of Eridan coming back to start this new golden age didn't work. And prophecy ever since hasn't really been working.
Okay. So it kind of ruined a lot of things ahead of it.
It sort of did. And we did that. I've always seen that as like using prophecies in novels or non-interactive, fantasy stories is something that happens all the time. It's cliched. But it's sort of a way for the author to say, like, on the fourth day of the dark sun, the dragons will rise and the roses will bloom and everything will go to their simpering doom or whatever.
Yeah.
And when you do that in a interactive game where the players are as much driving the stories, the players are like, "Oh, really? I don't think so." And they do everything they can to steer it in a different direction.
Yeah.
Which is one of the really cool things about the game is it's a story that you all collaboratively build. So we wanted to basically have prophecy dead. We wanted prophecy not to work, and that's sort of symbolizes the player characters are coming into the world of Golarion, and it's who knows where it's going to go.
Yeah.
The Eye of Abendego is formed right at the same time, and it's just then storm going forever and forever has caused two or three nations to just flood over and have become like these post-apocalyptic, like swampy road warriors, kind of what I described them, the Soddenlands. It's caused shipping to get all sorts of crazy, and the pirates are taking advantage of it. A lot of the pirates have learned how to like navigate the storm and stuff, so they hide in there.
Oh, they can make it inside.
Yeah. Whether or not they come back out depends on how good of a pirate they are. But
I guess that's true. Yeah.
So that's really we wanted to get something in there that was you'd see the map and you'd immediately say, wait, what's going on there? Why is that hurricane on the map as like a stable features like the mountains and the coastlines? So.
It's just constant. It's like written in the hand-drawn map. They can put it in there.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. So moving from that, we've got the world wound, which you've talked about a little bit. Which the status of the world wound is.
The current status is, well, it's kind of complicated. Right now, since we're still doing first edition, the status is that it is open. There's demons pouring out of it and attacking your heroes and all of that stuff, causing all sorts of mayhem. And when you run the adventure path called the Wrath of the Righteous Adventure Path, that's the one where your heroes get to go in and be big damn heroes and close the Worldwound and save everything and stop these demons and fight a demon lord and all of this stuff. We're going to be, for example, in second edition, assuming that adventure path, as with all of the adventure paths, have taken place. And the assumption is that these adventure paths are ones where your player characters were successful. I don't feel comfortable in actually hard-coding into our text something along the lines of like, no matter how good you think you did in this adventure path, you failed because we're deciding this direction for that storyline.
Exactly, and it's also got to be really difficult to do regional history with a sliding scale to be like, well, maybe you did this one and maybe you didn't.
Yeah, we've got to make some assumptions.
Weird, but
we want to basically hard code these in so that it gives those who have played those adventures before the feeling like what they've done actually mattered and helped change the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we'll be doing something along the lines of like, but at the same point, to dovetail back into my comment about we don't want to change everything.
Right.
The world wound is closed, but all that really means at this point is that it's cut off the demon's escape route. And so now there's demons stranded on this world and they're stuck there. And it's still just as nasty and gnarly and gross. But now when you go in there and kill the demons, they're not replaced by 2 or 3 more demons. So it changes it from a hopeless endeavor to one where you can hopefully at some point defeat the demons who are squatting in this land and return it to its proper glory.
Nice. Okay, so it kind of killed the Hydra effect of these demons, where it's like there's not more cropping up.
And
all
of course, that also means that other, slumbering threats that have been like off screen for a while are now rising up. With the world wound gone, we need other big bad guys to menace the city and all that. We got like Tar-Baphon is the Whispering Tyrant.
The Whispering Tyrant.
He's somebody we'll be talking about more probably in January in the show, I think is the plan. But yeah,
definitely the plan.
He's kind of the big bad undead overlord lich tyrant. You don't want to mess with him.
No, he's a bad dude.
No, he is. Yeah, he is.
So now, for those that don't know, we know that the world wound happened when Eridan tried to return.
Well, Eridan died.
Yes.
And whether or not that triggered all of these other things, we've been really coy about what exactly caused Eridan to die and why all of these happened. They all kind of took place at the same point.
Okay. So then the world wound, just to explain what it is physically, it's a fissure that kind of opened.
Yeah, it's sort of a magical tear between this world and by this world, of course, I mean Golarion,
right?
And the Abyss, which is this otherworldly, like anti-heaven place, sort of hell, but for demons. It's a place of entropy and just madness and just distortion and the world itself, the reality itself there is evil and wants to hurt you. And it's kind of seeping through and kind of infecting this world with this sort of blight.
So cool. And I think from the very beginning, for me personally, the first I heard about the Whispering Tyrant, I was just like, this is such a great idea. Like this is a good baddie.
Yeah,
so.
It's a classic character. I mean, you see this in pretty much every big fantasy setting has like the ultimate bad undead character.
Yeah.
And so it was something we knew we had to do. But again, we wanted to take our own, we want to put our own spin on it and all of that. So there's a lot of this stuff. He's part of this thing called the Whispering Way. It's sort of this, not quite religion, but this philosophy that he's founded. And one of the ideas there is that you can teach other people about the secrets of the Whispering Way, but you can't write it down. You can't say it out loud. You have to whisper it into their ear.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's so creepy, though.
Yeah, if you do it any other way, you get in trouble.
I love seeing it's little things like that. It's like those little tiny, like those little weird little things that are thrown in that, again, help give it some vibrancy and some life and kind of put those cool little lore layers in there, So, okay, so that's the world wound. We've got there's a lake in Carthan is a
Lake in Carthan is really a big spot of turmoil and trouble. That's really the Whispering Tyrant doesn't really do much with the Worldwound so much as he does with the Lake and Carthen area. That's where his old stomping grounds, and there's all sorts of stuff going on there.
And where would we? So I've got the map up again.
Yeah.
Lake and Carthen is going to be right up there in the northish.
It's kind of like
area.
in the middle of the top half of the map. Big lake right there in the middle.
And around that we've got like
Ustalab, which is
Ustalab.
again the place where all of the horror movies come from. That's where you want to have your Draculas and your Frankenstein monsters, and your Lovecraft stuff,
the Monster Squad,
your werewolves, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then like going around, we've got all sorts of other. We've got Razmaram, which is a place run by a living god named Razimir, who's a lovely fella.
Will probably be its own show.
Yeah, we'll have to have Jason on here to do the Razimir voice. There's other regions like Druma, which is all about like making a lot of money, and the idea that if you deny yourself pleasures in this physical world, you will become rich and stuff like that. There's Mulfoon and Nirmathas, which are these two nations that are at war on and off. There's Lastwall, which is a nation that has been fighting against the Whispering Tyrant. It's sort of a bunch of paladins there. So we've got all sorts of different
scars around there. I think.
Yeah. So we've got all sorts of locations around the that region.
Right, and it seems like it's a vibrant. It is a vibrant lake. It's for trade and all kinds of things moving back and forth. So being right in the middle, right there, it is actually a pretty crucial thing.
That it looks like a bullseye is certainly a
how did that
a
happen?
coincidence. One of the adventure paths that will be launching next February, Tyrant's Grasp, is all about some pretty awful things that happened to the Lake and Carthen region.
Nice, and the Jade Empire around there. Yeah,
Jade Empire is actually all the way on the opposite side of the planet.
Is it way around over there?
Yeah. Jade Empire is kind of our fantasy version of Japan with ninja and samurai and all of that element. But we've even got links all the way over to even Sandpoint. With a tavern keeper named Amika, who used to live there, is actually the heir to the Empress of Minkai. And the fastest way to get to this other nation is to go over the top of the world through the frozen north.
Right.
Due to the nature of how the continents are set up and all of this stuff, it's a lot more torturous to take boats all over around.
Oh, right. So it's easier to stay closer to land.
Yeah.
Or walkable terrain, as it were.
Even though there's like Yetis and white dragons and stuff up there.
Whatever. I'm sure it's
better
fine.
than sea monsters, right?
And then the polar cap at the top is what I'll call it, for better or for worse. That does fully connect to more land on the other side.
Yep. It's sort of one of the things we want to do with Golarion is kind of keep it as close to Earth as possible. It's the same size. The year is the same number of days because we didn't want to go through it. It's got the same sort of size moon.
Right.
But then we do little weirdo things like rather than having Antarctica, a continent on the South Pole, we move this continent up to the North Pole.
That makes Yeah, I gotcha. It's funny you're talking about the days and like how they track and everything. I was talking to somebody. We thought about starting up on Paizo's Twitter once a day using the equivalent date.
Oh yeah.
And finding something from Pathfinder's history that on this day, blah blah blah. And it's like I started looking into it. That would be really difficult, but amazing. It would be a lot of fun.
There's a lot of lore that we created, and I mean. Yeah, we should probably task Mark Moreland with figuring that out. He's like the walking, living encyclopedia.
Yeah. So Mark, if you're in the chat by some chance, then
I think he's out today. But he might be lurking somewhere out there in the internet.
You never know. But I thought it'd be a lot of fun to do that kind of thing, you know. So, okay, well, what's our next stop on this Golarion World Tour? We've done. Let's see. We're just past Lake and Carthen now, moving our way down.
If you keep going south over to the other side of the Inner Sea region, you get all that desert region down there. And one of the things we wanted to do as well with Golarion is not only have a bunch of different, fantasy settings and stuff like that. We wanted to have touchstones. Like I mentioned earlier with the Land of the Lunarum Kings, touches on like Viking, Nordic lore and stuff like that. We've got Osirion, which is kind of our version of ancient mythological Egypt. With like, there's a lot of pyramids and pharaohs used to rule there, and there's like sphinxes, and we've kind of blurred the lines a little bit with a lot of genie type stuff going on in there as well. So there's sort of an Arabian Nights type mythology going on there.
Yeah.
But that way, it really helps people when they come to a setting that they've never explored before, and it's just a bunch of nonsense names that don't mean anything to them. But when they look at something like Osirion, they see like pyramids and sphinxes and stuff like that. That'll immediately trigger, in the shared consciousness of the genre.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's where mummies are going to fight. Where you're going to fight mummies.
Yeah.
And there might be like these weird jackal creatures or something like that.
I was just going to say, what are the jackal?
Like scorpion people. Like Noel,
yeah,
whatever.
those things are gross. I have an extreme fear of scorpions, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, they just really like, oh man. Like,
all right, that's interesting to know.
Yeah, don't use that for any bad purpose.
But that's one of the things we try to do as well. So like, if we build a nation that is so complicated, or a region that's so high concept that you can't really understand, it's like this is the region where you investigate tombs and fight mummies. That sums it up. Right. There's a lot more to Osirion, of course.
But I like, again, like you said, it
helps people to figure out and to like figure out what's going on, really.
Absolutely. Well, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think this is what's going to be a testament to knowing how good I think these shows are going to be, is that we're already out of time. So we're going to have to start some Q&A and all of that stuff. So folks in the chat, hang on just a bit. Thank you so much for being on here. This is going to be a lot of fun. I think this is the beginning of some really fun things.
Looking forward to like the shows coming up where we can like focus in and don't get all over the place.
I know, that's going to be the best part.
Yeah.
So all right, so let's do this. Let me do a goodbye and then we'll wave a goodbye and then it'll be really good. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm sorry we ran out of time so quick. If you liked the video, please feel free to comment down in the comment section. Feel free to subscribe to Paizo. Hit the like button, hit the bell notification button, all of those things. If you would like to be a part of the Q&A that we're getting ready to start right now, join us on Fridays at 4:30 at 4 o'clock Pacific. And join in live on Twitch at twitch.tv/officialpaizo. There it is. Got it right the first time. So in the meantime, I would like to thank James for joining us for this, what should be the first of many, and for Paizo, and for James, and for me, your old buddy Dan, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. There it is. Bye.
See you later.